ready to go. Yes, we are. We're ready to go. We're ready to go. All right.
All right. Short, man. I guess I am.
We ready. I'm about 6'2", coach.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm that's right.
All right, we ready. We're ready to go. Ready to go. Excited. I'm excited as usual. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. I'm Ethan Kapombe, Coach K, Jay the speaker, and today's show, I have a guest today, the first guest on the ILTSports podcast, and I'm definitely excited about it to have Coach Metz. Welcome, Coach Metz, to the show. What we got? Applause at. Let me see where we at. Still. There we go. There we go. We start getting those things situated. Definitely excited to have Coach Metz to be the first guest on the ILTSports podcast. And I'm pretty much just going to go through in terms of how I had the opportunity to meet Coach. Then I'm going to allow Coach to introduce himself, to talk about, what he's currently doing. But I met Coach. Currently, I met Coach when Ethan, who's my 8-year-old son, was 3 years old. That's when I met Coach Metz. Ethan was 3. Ethan is 8 years old now. So we met Coach Metz. We've seen him training a lot of kids, teaching tennis. Definitely, I was observing Coach, seeing what he was doing. Ethan wanted to play him one-on-one. So Ethan said, I want to go play him one-on-one. I'm like, hold on. This is when Ethan is 3 years old. I want to play him one-on-one. I'm like, hold on.
That's me.
That's Ethan, because I'm trying to tell you that's Ethan. So I'm like, hold on. So we took the time. We walked over. This was at Summers Middle School. We walked over there, me and Ethan. We introduced ourselves. Coach was done with the lesson at this point, so I was already watching what he was doing. We introduced ourselves. We spoke to Coach. Ethan was 3 at the time. We talked about possibly doing lessons. And what Coach said, when he turns 5, bring him back. When he turns 5 years old, bring him back. Then we're going to think about getting him started at that time. So that was great. So I got to give you an applause for that one, Coach. I got to give you an applause. So before we start the show, and definitely I want to ask open the floor up so Coach can be able to tell us about who he is, what he does, and just pretty much giving us an overview of who he is. So Coach, can you tell us about yourself in terms of your name and everything else and all of that?
Okay, first of all, my name is Coach Sterling Metz, and even before I get too much further down the road here, I have to give God all the glory, honor, and praise for just being here and just for his love, grace, and mercy, because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. So to get that out of the way, I just got to thank him for just the opportunity that he's given me to be able to be in a situation like even being here today. But yes, I'm a professional tennis registry tennis instructor. I started playing when I was 12 years old as a kid. A friend of mine, she was playing tennis, and I asked her, can I hit use a tennis racket and a few balls? And after hitting a few balls, it was like, I fell in love. I was like hook, line, and sinker. And I haven't been able to get off the court since. So ever since I was 12 years old, I first picked the racket up, I just fell in love with the sport. And that's pretty much how I got involved with tennis.
So you say by the time you was 12 years old, so a friend of you that asked you, this is when you was 12?
Yes, I was 12 years old, and she was playing on a tennis court. And I said, well, hey, can I use a tennis racket and hit a few balls? And she said, sure. And once I picked that tennis racket, just transformed my whole life. It was just couldn't let it go. So
that was what, middle school?
I was 12 years old. Yeah, I guess that was part of middle school. Yes, because I was in the 6th grade at the time. So
okay. Yeah. So in terms of you playing tennis, this is more you guys are just playing playing outside.
This is my neighborhood, Norfolk, Virginia. I was down in Norfolk, Virginia, playing in my neighborhood. I was just walking through the neighborhood, and I saw her whole family played tennis. I think her father played tennis, and she played tennis. So when I saw them hit the tennis ball, I said, well, let me try it at least. I was just curious about it. And after I got involved with hitting a few balls with her, it just took off. And from there on, I just became a tennis fanatic. Mm-hmm. I would get up early in the morning, and this is probably going to further some of the things we're talking about. After I picked up that first tennis racket and hit that first tennis ball, I got to a point where I fell so love in the sport that I would get up in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, and I would be on the tennis court 7:30 in the morning, and would come home 2:30 in the morning. And it was really bad to the point where I used to get my family.
So this is the summertime, though,
right? Of course, during the summertime,
during
the summertime.
Right.
So, and it was so bad to the point where I just couldn't get off the court. I would get on the court at 7 o'clock in the morning, eat my breakfast, go out to the tennis court, and lunchtime, come home, brothers would come get me. Sterling, Mom said time to come home. Come home, go back to the court. Dinner time, Mom, Sterling said come home, eat lunch, eat dinner.
Right.
Go home, eat dinner, back to the tennis court.
Right.
Sterling, Mom said come home, time to go to bed. And what was bad about it, the court was probably about 100 yards from the street. So first they used to come over to the tennis court. But it got so bad that I was doing this every day, they would stop even walking to the tennis court. They would yell, Sterling, Mama said time to come home, eat lunch. So I go home, eat lunch, come back. Sterling, Mama said time to come home, eat dinner. So that went on all the whole day, every day, pretty much for the whole summer. And that was pretty much my life. Right. I just fell in love with the sport. So that's how I got started. So
that's and I think, and that's that's passion. That's passion. That's the love for the sport. And I think a lot of times, even now, what you're currently doing now, because it all kind of connected the point I was trying to make. But if you could tell us, because as you're talking about your childhood, how you kind of got introduced to the sports, but could you also tell us just what you're doing right now in terms of some of the kids that you're working with? Because I kind of want to connect how that's about hard work along with passion. How just some of the kids nowadays, what I see is, because everything is so organized. Yeah. I tell the parents that when we started playing a lot of these sports, because right now we have all the information, so everything is organized. When we started playing, we did it because we enjoyed it. So can you talk about just what you're doing right now in terms of just the kids, you training kids, and in terms of tennis, how kind of you started with that, and I'll kind of go back to the point in terms of connecting some of the stuff.
Okay, and to go back to what you were saying about how it's so much easier compared to when we were doing sports. When I first got involved in tennis, I always wanted to go pro. After I got in college, high school area, when I got serious about tennis, I wanted to go pro. And in order to go pro, first of all, you had to have the money, you had to have the know-how, the wealth of information. And unfortunately, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have YouTube and different things like that.
Right.
So I had no information, or I didn't have the understanding of how to move forward in going pro. But today, there are so many opportunities for the young kids that they don't even realize. So when I first started, I was practicing like crazy. I was running, I was doing everything I could to get myself lined up with going pro, but I just didn't know how to get there. So I played all throughout my high school. I went to Germany. I went to college. Didn't get a chance to finish in college, but I ended up going in the Air Force. While I was in Germany, I played all throughout Europe. I played on on the Air Force team. I played on also German teams. I played against some semi-pro matches also, won a few also. So I had a great time traveling, playing tennis, but I wanted to go further with it. And since I couldn't go pro with it, I said, well, now that I'm getting a little serious, I'm getting a little older now, how about becoming a tennis instructor? So eventually, after so many years of just sticking with the sport, hanging in there, I decided to start working towards becoming a tennis instructor. So I found a company by the name of Professional Tennis Register, which is called PTR, short for PTR, and I get my certification through them, and that's how I got into the becoming a tennis instructor, doing what I'm passionate about.
Right.
And so then I ended up going into high school coaching for the first few years until I got my first student to come start my private lessons. So I became assistant coach. That's how I started out in tennis in 2011. I became a tennis instructor. I'm not a tennis instructor. I started working towards my tennis instructor in 2009. 2011, I actually started my first high school tennis job.
So 2009, that's when you started. That's a good 12, 13 years?
14 years, about 14 years.
14 years in terms of coaching and just helping kids. So, where's my applause? We gotta give an applause, Coach. We gotta give an applause because I know I've been so far in Spotlight through sports about a good 3 years. So it's definitely passion. It's fun. It's enjoyable. But it is a challenge when you're actually developing kids.
Yes,
it's a tremendous challenge.
Yes,
and things of that nature. So, and I think in terms of you coaching kids right now, and I think a lot of parents when their son kids out, they want them to learn another sport. And I try to remind the parents that it is important for them to have fun. You want your kids to enjoy the sport and to actually have fun, because that's what's going to keep them going long term. It's not necessarily because they're coming out there, they're already mastering the skills right away, but it's them enjoying the sport. That's going to help them to keep playing. If you're putting a lot of pressure on them, in terms of their performance, they're not going to enjoy it. It's supposed to be fun. So what do you think about that, Coach?
Well, first of all, like you said, going back to with kids trying to enjoy this sport. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, it makes it hard, first of all. And I see some kids, especially as a tennis instructor, I see some kids that tell me, Coach, I want to be Serena Williams. I want to be this person. I want to be that person. I want to be a pro tennis player. I want to be the GOAT. And what I found out after doing a few lessons, a few months in, they don't like the sport. Right. So I'll ask my students, I said, so what's going on? You told me you want to be this person, be that person.
They want to be the GOAT.
They want to be the GOAT. And then I come to find out that they'll tell me, well, I don't really want to play this sport. My parents wanted me to be the tennis player. Wanted me to do this. Right. And what I'm finding out, in some cases, some kids don't even want to be involved with the sport. And the person, we've talked about it before, the parents are living their dreams to their students sometimes, to their
right.
kids,
right.
trying to get them to get to a certain level. And you have to find out what that kid wants to do, instead of stick them in a sport where they're not happy, like going back to what you're saying. If they're not having fun, then it's going to be miserable for them. And I deal with that all the time, where some parents want me to teach their kids and stick with them because the type of person I'm a type of person where I'm not only I talk about being on the court, I talk about being off the court. Because personality on the court, what you do on the court and what you do off the court is very vital, very important.
Right.
Because if I'm having a bad day off the court, I'm going to bring it to the court. If I'm having a bad day on the court, I'm going to take it off the court. And that can affect your life when it comes to grades, when it comes to getting kicked off the team because of bad attitude. So when a parent wants a kid to be there and they don't want to be there, that's tough on the kid. So for those children that want to be there, then that's when it gets a little easier, because now you don't have to try to get them to practice. You don't have to try to encourage them, hey, do this, do that. They want to do it on. And as a coach yourself, you see that yourself. Correct. You know the kids who want to play, because you don't have to tell them do this or do that. You don't have to try to get them to practice. They practice on their own because they love the sport. Right. And that's what I've noticed about my students that love the sport. They beg me, hey, Coach, when can we get a lesson? When can we do this? When can we do that? The ones that don't want to be there, unfortunately, because the parents are making them or want them to be involved with the sport, it makes it tougher. They don't practice, and it shows in their skill level, their performance, and how far they're behind versus the kids that want to be there. So it makes it a little tougher. So, but that's what we have to deal with as coaches, and it makes it hard on us as coaches also.
Correct.
Because we have to deal with personality, we have to deal with the attitude,
yeah.
and of course, as adults, we learn to deal with that. We learn to handle that. But at the same time, what the young folks don't realize is the attitude they bring to the court, it slows down their performance. It slows down them being to get further down the road. But also, unfortunately, if a parent is making them be there, they don't be in the first place. So.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's like I always say, there's no right or wrong answer in terms of the process, but it's just understanding how to support your child, and this is where, for those of you who are joining the show, so, I have Coach Metz today. He's a tennis instructor. He's making a difference, helping a lot of kids out in the community, because, and we was talking about in terms of the parents, just making sure the kid is having fun. And that's why kind of like we're doing the podcast, because it gives us a chance to talk about how sports, like you said before, attitude. If you're coming to practice, you're coming to train with the wrong attitude, it transitions, even to things that has nothing to do with the sport. And that's why Inspiring Through Sports, is in terms of what I want to do, because, it's also about the life skills, the skills that you're learning through the sport. That's about life. Mm-hmm. So it's very, challenging for parents, whereas they want their kids to do some type of activity, but sometimes they might be pushing them too hard. And that's why, as a fine line, even those kids who don't want to be there, sometimes I even say, you know what? The fact that you're here, hey, we got to get through this session.
Yep, definitely. I deal with that also. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we got to get through this session because you're here. Hopefully, maybe, we can make it fun for you that you want to return. I mean, you want to speak on that?
Yeah, I've had students that on the same issue that they would be there, and they're like, God, I really want to be here. My parents make me come out to that. I said, well, think about it this way. If you are here and you just give me 1 hour of your time, just focus on 1 hour, you'd be surprised how it can change your life. And once you start getting good, it gets easier. You end up enjoying the sport, and then it's not going to be like it's work anymore.
Right.
But that is the hardest part sometimes, getting to a student to realize that, listen, if you give 1 hour and you focus, even if you don't want to be there, even your parents will make you be there. And sometimes the parents have a reason why they want to be involved with sport,
right.
because they're trying to keep them off trouble. They're trying to keep them off the streets, unfortunately. They're trying to get them to get off their couch, which we talked about also, because we're living in an age now where obesity and all kinds of stuff, you got to be careful talking about obesity, but we're in an age now where back in the days when we were growing up, what was obesity? We didn't see it that much.
Right.
Now the 50% of the American kids, or American period, the population, are obese. And so a lot of parents are trying to force their kids in sports to get them out the house and put down the video games. So if you're going to be, I tell my students, if you're going to be here, just give me that hour and focus, and see what's going to happen. You may surprise yourself. And some kids, it changes. Some kids still walk away. I don't want to do it. Unfortunately, you know what I'm talking about. But I've had some great results because of that. I've had kids that we butt heads, and we're going to talk about one of my kids probably in the future. Hopefully he's going to come up on the podcast. One of my kids is a movie star, and of course he knows him also. And I don't want to give his name right because I don't want to spoil it right now. But we bumped heads a lot also, and he was in a different total sport, and his parents wanted to get him involved with tennis. Because one sport they felt was a little too dangerous, the other sport they figured, well, it may be a little safer and easier. So when this kid came to me, he didn't want to be there. So I was dealing with the pros and cons of why you want to be here, why you don't want to be here. And one of the things he asked me was, Coach, what can you tell me about tennis? Why? I said, well, I give you pros and cons. I'm not going to try to persuade you which way to go because I don't get in trouble with mom and dad. You know how that is. You get in trouble with mom and dad. Mom, hey, coach, dad, no. I'm going to let you make the decision. These are the pros and the cons. And to make a long story short, he's one of my best students. And because of the communication, they would be able to talk to this kid and sit down and just communicate. I became like a mentor for him. Before he went off to Hollywood to become a movie star, we were able to get his head on the right path, his head on the right in the right direction, because he was kind of his personality was a little off a little bit. He was a little frustrated. He wanted to be in tennis. He wanted to do this. He wanted to do his other sport. So to make a long story short, we sat down and talked with him in Hollywood. I said, son, listen, if you're going to go to Hollywood, if you plan on doing this show you're going to be doing, you're definitely going to have to change that personality. And this is where coaches come in. Sometimes we're like lawyers, doctors, physicians. We play a lot of roles in kids' lives that parents sometimes don't even know. The kids are telling stuff that they don't even tell their own parents. So in situations like that, I was able to help mentor him to the point where when he went off to Hollywood, when he came back, he was like, Coach, I'm glad we had this talk, because if I had went with the way I was born, with my personality before, I wouldn't have made it. So we as coaches, we have to deal with, like I said, the personality of the children, the parents that are living their dreams through their kids. And unfortunately, that makes it hard for a coach, because you know yourself, if you have a kid that want to be there, don't want to be there, and the parent want them there, well then you have to deal with, like you said, trying to get them to focus versus the kid that want to be there. Because I have some kids that love tennis, want to be there, and it makes life so much easier. And the training goes so much easier and faster. But as a coach, we have to still learn to work through that. And we have to be patient with these kids, because we are a role model for these kids, and we can make a big difference in their lives. And sometimes we don't know we're making a difference. We don't know the difference that we are making until we look really down the road. A kid comes, he's a coach. You're a role model. You're my mentor. And it makes life that much more special for us as coaches to see how difference we're making in kids' lives that we deal with on a regular basis. So.
And that's what it's about. I think you hit it in terms of the mentor part. It's really, as a coach, you're really, at the high level of it, you're really providing mentorship. And I think that's why it becomes so important, when parents actually do bring their kids, even the kids that don't want to be there, because what they're going to actually learn from that coach. And that's why it's important as coaches. I always say, I don't have to scream at a kid. It depends on some kids. You need to yell at them. Some kids you need to scream at them. Probably even some more stuff to kind of get them in line. But you gotta be able to actually teach so the kids can learn. So especially now we have so much information for different coaches, for example, who may be struggling with certain things. There's so much resources out there. But I think, like you mentioned, the mentor aspect is so important, so key, because as a coach, you're a mentor. that's, you're providing, because the kids are going to have questions to you, not just about that particular sport. They're going to talk about their friends, what they're dealing with, their life. So, and you're going to actually respond because you have experience in terms of talking to the kids. But I did want to ask you another question. I know you didn't talk about, you already kind of talked about it, but were there other sports that you actually played when you was, when you was young coming up? Were there other sports that you tried out that you maybe were playing before you discovered tennis? I pretty much would say, I guess tennis was your favorite sport, but I kind of like to kind of for you to talk about, were there other sports that you did try, and actually if you can let us know what is your favorite sport, even though what you're doing right now, trying to teach them tennis.
Okay, and it's important that you ask that question also, because I'm 59 years old, and back in the days when we were coming up, we did all types of sports. We stayed outside. We played basketball, football, baseball, soccer, you name it, we did it all.
Right.
So we had a variety of things we can do. And when you start talking about sports, I did it all pretty much. I thought I was going to be a pitcher because I always had great arms. I thought about pitching. I thought about being a football quarterback. I thought about being like baseball. So for all the different sports I tried, I always liked the sports where it was more like where you had to being a pitcher or the quarterback, because I was pretty active when it comes to doing things. I played soccer. I was a right wing. I played up front as a soccer player. So it gave me a good opportunity to build my body and get prepared for tennis, which I didn't plan on playing tennis. I didn't know I was going to play tennis. But being very active in different sports prepared me for my favorite sport, which happened later on. And when we talked about our generation of playing sports and what we did versus the new generation, I talked to some of the parents and I talked to some of my students how back in the days, our bodies are so much stronger than the new generation. It's nothing personal. Sometimes some of my younger students get frustrated because they think, well, we're trying to pick on their generation. We're not picking on the younger generation. We're not, or the newer generation. What we are saying is back in the days, we didn't have technology, the cell phones. We didn't have the video games. We were forced to go out and play sports. Not even if we didn't want to play, we were forced to go outside and not come back in until it got dark. So we had to be involved, playing, working, doing something where getting active. Parents said, go outside and come back till the sun goes down or the lights come, the street lights come. We know it's time to come home. So our bodies are stronger. We have better balance. We were much suited to go into being athletes than this newer generation. Because a lot of them, I get kids, and you know what I'm saying as a coach, we get kids that never played a sport before, don't know how to run, don't know how to move. It's like, well, how can a kid not know how to run? How is it possible a kid don't know how to have balance, not understand? It's because they didn't climb the monkey bars, they didn't swing from the swing, they weren't walking the fence trying to balance. We did all those things that trained our bodies to get ready for sports. We didn't know that was happening, but that's what's happening as we was growing up. But fast forward to today, unfortunately, we have a lot of couch fatigue. Our kids want to play video games. They like to sit down and do nothing but Instagram, social media, and it's killing a lot of our kids, and it's really hampering their performance. And so when I look back at the sports I did, I tried it all. I love every sport. But it was just something about tennis. When I picked up the tennis racket, I just fell in love with it. So then I started telling them everything that I learned toward tennis. Of course, with my just being an athlete, period, being a runner, being a soccer player, being involved with football, different things I did, it just made it easier. And then, of course, if we're, as a basketball and a football player, we're more aggressive. So when you take that in a sport like tennis, where most kids nowadays not very aggressive, we live in a nation today where our kids are very sensitive about everything. And I'm trying not to get in trouble. Please forgive me.
Well, it's not the kid. Well, I'll get in trouble for you. It's not the kid's fault.
Of course.
It's the parents' fault. You got to put it on the parents because that's who they're learning from. They're learning because kids can get in trouble in school, and parents will come in and say, "Oh, my child didn't do that." You know, well, your child, he gets in trouble a lot. So I mean, it's a lot of it is on the parents in terms of what they're teaching the kids, and they're making excuses for them. A lot of parents make excuses for their kids.
And unfortunately, we didn't have that when we was growing up. You got in trouble, you did something wrong. And
everybody want to whip your butt in the whole community.
And of course, some people not want to hear that, but I got whooped by so many people, and I wasn't a bad guy, but that's why I stayed out of trouble. That's why I didn't get in trouble, because we had a teacher at my school when I was in 4th grade. I never forget this lady. She would take you into the closet, and the kids would be screaming and hollering. She would wear their butts out, but guess what? That's why as a kid growing up, I'm not getting in trouble. I'm not going back and see that teacher. And so we don't have that today, like you're saying. Unfortunately, we have a young generation raising younger kids.
Right.
And then also, we were raised to respect the elders, respect. It's just a whole different world we're living in. A whole different world we're living in.
Yeah, a lot more different challenges that the kids are dealing with. The social media is definitely a challenge.
The disrespect also, and I don't want to hear what you have to say. And as coaches, we have to deal with it. And that's unfortunate because when I was growing up, if an adult tell you something, you listen, you respected them. Now, some of the kids I deal with, they don't want to listen to you. I don't have to listen to you, coach. Son, you don't have to listen to them, but you don't have to be in the program. Right. This is volunteer. As a coach, as high school coach, I had to tell some of my kids, this is volunteer. You don't have to be here. If you don't want to listen, son, you can grab your bags, pack your stuff, and go. I want you here. But if you feel you don't have to listen to me, this is volunteer. Now,
for tennis and what, middle school?
Well, I was talking about like when I was high school coach, I had to deal with some of those same attitudes with kids in high school.
They get picked though to be on the team, right?
Oh no! What happened is a lot of times in our area in Charles County, we had what you call no-cut posse, and then with tennis also, tennis is a sport where it's not big in Charles County. It's not like basketball or football. So you would. Any kid to join a team, you were excited to get. You put them on the team.
Right.
So it's very rare you cut a kid on the tennis team in our area. So, but when I did get those kids on the team, those students on the team, and they had the attitude, I had to tell them, listen, son, I need you. We would love to have you, but at the same time, this is volunteer. If you can't get your attitude in line with being a team member or being on the team, you have to go. Even though I need you, you need to go because our team is more important than a person coming on with a bad attitude and destroying the team. Right. And pretty much, it worked pretty good. I've had kids that almost had let go, and it was like, well, coach, oh, I get it. And they're changed. But they're not raised that way in a lot of cases because back in the days, we knew if we cut up, we're going to get tore up.
Right.
And nowadays, the kids, they can act, do what they want, say what they want. And it's a whole different world, It makes it a little tougher for us as coaches when. That's why some coaches are afraid to coach also. They're afraid of saying stuff to the kids. The parents may get involved. Now, you say stuff to the kids, the parents ready to fight you. Back in my days, you just tell the parent, the kid showing off. That kid, get in line, lickety split. That's the difference.
It's definitely hard. I don't know if it's you just got to be passionate about it. You
gotta love what you're doing nowadays.
You got to love it because that's what's going to dive you deep into learning more about just becoming a better coach and just figuring out, coming up with different things that's interesting to reach the kids because it's definitely hard, and I think I think there's some gifting in it, there's some volunteering in there as well because you got to volunteer to kind of figure it out. But once you love it, because I always look at the kids, like you're saying, there are some kids that just you have a hard session. But there are some kids that come in like, man, that session was great.
Oh yeah, a lot of fun.
So I always say, you know what?
They have to balance it out.
Yeah, balance it out. So when I have that challenging kid as a challenge, it's not. I try to figure out how to make it fun because actually what I've learned, those challenging kids have taught me how to become a better coach.
Right. There you go.
You know, how to become a better mentor because now you really got to use the different tools, the different techniques that you got to reach them. And really then what happens is your passion continues to grow because you get better and better as a coach.
And on top of that, the kids that come in with those rough kids that come in like that, when you go the extra mile with them and show them that you care about them, you're there for them, that's when you're really reaching someone. Because a kid that comes there got a great attitude and doing great, that's great. But when you can reach a kid that's struggling, that's got anger issues, and I have quite a few kids got anger issues, all kinds of things going on. Right. And you have to be sensitive about what you say, how you say it. They get frustrated easy. But at the same time, there's been times I have to tell my kids, once we get a understanding of who I am, I'm the coach, you're the student. I'm not your parent. There's times I have to tell my kids, listen, son, listen, young lady, I'm not your friend. I'm your coach. We have a friendly relationship somewhat because we want everything to go well and smooth. I want you to be able to trust me. But at the same time, I have to tell you stuff that mom and dad don't want to tell you because they don't want to hurt your feelings. But there's times I'm going to have to hurt your feelings, not in a bad way, in order to get you to move forward. Because I got to get that rough edge off you. I have to put some sandpaper on you and make it feel like, well, coach, you were kind of hard on me. No, son, I wasn't hard on you. Right. I'm trying to get you to that next level. And for a parent to say, it's okay, son, you're the best. Yes and no. Because we as coaches, we know the kids' potential a lot of times. The parents don't see this, and that's why sometimes we have to tell the parents, sir, ma'am, I understand what you're trying to do, but you got to leave it to me. You have to trust me in this area. Because some kids will tell us things that they don't tell the parents. Right. So we know what we have to do to get them to that next level, or just to even keep them involved when they're ready to give up. And I've had quite a few kids. I've had parents come to me and say, well, Coach, I got a new kid for you, and I won't mention the name. And I had a family that I'm working with, and I've worked with a couple of their kids, and one of the kids, he's got some anger issues going on. So when they came to me about the kid, I said, well, Coach, I got a kid for you. I said, okay, sure. He said, but. I said, oh, Lord. But. So I knew it was something going on. Right. So she kind of gave me some ideas of what was going on, but not a lot of details.
Right.
So from day one when I met this young man, we've been butting heads going on, but now he sees that I care for him. Yeah. I brag on my students all the time. He would tell me, hey, Coach, you always brag on everybody, but you never brag on me. I said, son, let me tell you something. Right. There is a tennis tournament that Ethan Coach K's son just joined. And a wonderful young man by the name of John Niswan is Southern Maryland tennis leagues. And we go down there in St. Mary's County or Calvert County playing this tournament. Well, this young man, I would leave from Waldorf, Maryland, about 25 minutes after doing 4 or 5 lessons, get in the car, haven't had anything to eat, and he would be up the first one playing. I would go watch him play. I said, well, son, let me tell you something. You think I don't brag on you. You think I don't care about you. You're not on the same level with these kids. I'm talking about on a different level. But you're going to get there. And I know you're going to get there. And if I didn't care about you, and if I wasn't bragging on you, even though you were struggling, why would I get in the car, had nothing to eat, get in the car, drive an hour, to go almost an hour to go see you and hang out with you, and I'm hungry and I'm starving just to come watch you play? Because I want you to know that I care for you. I'm there for you, son, and I know you can do it. You may not believe in yourself, but we as coaches, a lot of times we believe more in our kids than they believe in themselves. And that's why I tell my kids all the time, listen, you get frustrated yourself more than we do. We don't get frustrated, you guys, because we know the potential. Right. We know how hard it is being an athlete and what it takes to get there. Yeah. And so a lot of time, our students, they get frustrated easy, and we have to try to encourage them not to get frustrated. So I have to tell my kids, listen, you're mad and frustrated. I'm not mad and frustrated. Yeah. You're the one getting upset. So this young man, in the beginning, he thought I didn't have his back. He thought I didn't care about him. And I said, son, why would I drive out here to come watch you play tennis? I don't get paid. I don't get paid for that. Right, but I was doing it because I love my sport. I'm talking about being passionate about what we're doing. Yeah, like what you're doing with Inspiring Lives, what you're doing with your podcast. We're here to inspire young folks, to let people know that as coaches, we go through a lot of stuff too. We suffer a lot too. And this is something I'm going to talk about. I don't tell a lot of people, and this kind of help you understand what I mean. But as coaches, sometimes we have to be transparent with our kids and let them know what we go through. Right. Because they see us as adults and they think, you guys not going through what I'm going through. You don't understand what I'm going through. And this will help. And I haven't told a lot of people. Matter of fact, Coach K, you don't know about this. Right. But today is the 5th. Okay, the 5th and the 6th is a hard time in my life. The worst things that happen to me always happen on the 5th and the 6th of the month. And the day is July the 5th. So I don't believe it's by accident that the Lord allowed me to be here on July the 5th. And here's the funny part about it. My late wife's birthday was on January the 5th. When she got sick before she passed, she got sick on the 5th. She went in the hospital on the 6th, and that's when we knew that all these major things were going to happen to her. We lost the first baby on June the 6th. She got sick on June the 5th, found out she was about to lose the baby. June the 6th, we lost the baby. This is 1996. December 98. June the 5th, found out she was sick again with the second baby. Ended up going to hospital on December the 5th. December the 6th, we lost the second baby. So these are kind of things that I have to tell my kids sometimes. My kids are struggling and say, Coach, this and that. You don't understand. And there have been many days like on my wife's birthday, on my wife's anniversary, that I'm doing all that. And I said, son, let me tell you something. I'm out here on a tough day. I lost my wife. This is the day of our anniversary when I lost her. This is my anniversary of my wedding. But I'm out here with you guys. And I'm telling you this because you need to know that we as coaches, we struggle. Right. We go through things. We don't tell you guys that we don't let you see this because we have to be that role model in our lives. We have to be that strong person to help pull you along. So that way, as you get old, you understand, now I get it. Because young folks, I'm going to tell you now, Coach K can tell you, you're going to go through things. If you don't think you can go through things in life, I'm going to be the first to tell you, you will struggle. Right. You're going to have hard times in life. But it's what you do with those hard times. How you turn around and use them to make yourself stronger, or how you use them to be transparent with your young folks. Say, listen, young man, young lady, we go through things also, but we overcome. So if we can go through these things and overcome, you can too. And I see that happen to some of my kids' lives, because I've had some things tragic happen to some of my students' lives. And because of some of these same conversations, some of the things we're talking about, they have been able to say, well, Coach, I get it, I see it. Now I can work through my situation too. I know that I'm going to go through some hard times, some tough times. But that makes you a stronger athlete on the court, makes you a stronger person off the court. So, and it all just works together. So
correct. Usually, it's not that we, there's no break because we're going live. But on that one, I just definitely want to, take a little quick break, a little bit. For those who are tuning in, thank you for tuning in. You're here with Inspiring Through Sports podcast. I'm Coach K, and that's Coach Metz. Coach Metz, he's our first guest to the show. So definitely, I like to thank him. That definitely was, very powerful in terms of, like you just said, like as coaches, we face challenges as well. And, we don't get a chance to, it's not about us talking about it, but to the kids or maybe those who care about us who might share it. But it is about, like we say, the mentorship, mentoring the kids, providing them even tools through life. As they continue to grow, they can be able to actually make great life decisions. Because I tell parents all the time who are quick to say, well, let me take my kid off the team. Let me stop bringing them to training. And I try to tell them, well, they're not just learning how to play this sport. They're not just learning how to, score these points. It's the different life lessons that they're going to learn outside of the sport, even within the sport, because they're learning from us. Not just that, they're also learning from their peers, who they're going to deal with even in school and things of that nature. So I think one of the parts, I did want to. There was you said a lot of stuff. I was gonna kind of highlight on when you talked about tennis being your favorite sport. But because like you mentioned, you played all the sports. You tried different sports. That's another thing I tell the parents too. Like, let them play different sports. Unless you just know your child is so gifted at that one sport, it's okay to allow them to do that. But there's also such thing as burnouts. There is burnouts. So it's also them playing different sports is good, because if they're an athlete, they're going to learn any other sport really, really fast. So my question was going to be, once you discovered that tennis was your favorite sport, what was it about tennis that, you was like, man, this is it, compared to the other sports that, that kind of stuck with you and you started really focusing more on that?
I guess as a kid, I've always been very inquisitive. I used to take my toys apart and put them together, and I used to, my brothers, and I don't want to get in trouble, but my brothers would break their toys. Me, I would take them apart, screw everything apart, and put it back together. So I've always been a very technical type person. So I guess when I got involved with tennis, it was just something different about it, unlike football, basketball. But it was very challenging also, and it was just something about picking a racket up. And I don't know what it was about. It's just, I just fell in love with it. But as I got involved with it, I realized, whoa, tennis is a very technical sport. And that's where I try to get my students to understand. Nothing wrong with basketball, coach, don't get me wrong, and I'm a football. But when you catch a football using your natural hand, you kick a football off your feet, or catch a soccer ball, kick a soccer ball, you use your natural hand. But anytime you attach a 27-inch racket to your hand, or as a little kid, 19 to whatever size it be, and you trying to hit a tennis ball, it's a whole different world. And so I deal with the students think, well, what's wrong with me? As an app, nothing's wrong with you, son. If I throw a ball, you can catch a ball. I said, put the racket down. You caught the ball, right? Okay, catch a ball is easy. But now when you put something in your hand and you have to try to hit a ball with a racket, that's a whole different world. So me, as getting involved with tennis, it was just something I fell in love with, but I also realized that it's not an easy sport to learn. And so when I talk to my students about being a tennis player, I try to explain to them all the time, listen, this is not a regular sport like basketball, football, baseball. These are sports where, this is a sport where once you learn one stroke, not like catch a ball, you have to learn a forehand, you have to learn the ins and outs of forehand, a backhand, a serve, a volley. You have so many different types of strokes that you have to learn in tennis, and so many techniques that if you don't love this sport, it can get easier. It gets easier when they just say give up on it. But if you stick in there and you keep working, it gets easy like anything else. But that shows you who really wants to be there also. It's saying that you can make excuses. If I love football and I don't want to, even though it's easy or basketball, I love the sport. If I don't want to be there, it's not gonna be it's not gonna matter how easy it is. We know that.
Yeah.
So if I love my sport, tennis, like my kids love tennis, no matter how difficult and technical it is, they're there. They work, and they know they're gonna get there because they just keep working through it. But for the ones that's making excuses, unfortunately, they really don't want to be there. Or the parents have them there because they want to, the parents are living through them and want them to be a pro tennis player or whatever they want to be because they didn't make it. That's when it get hard on a kid, especially in a technical sport like tennis. Because it requires a lot of repetition. And in basketball, we talk about Steph Curry. Yesterday we were talking about Kobe Bryant, Steph Curry, and talking about Roger Federer and Serena Williams, the GOATs, all the different GOATs in various sports. And a lot of kids think, well, I want to be like the GOAT, I want to be like this one. Okay, well, what are you willing to do to be like them? Are you willing to put the time in? We're talking about Kobe Bryant. God bless his soul, bless his soul. When we talking about, he says the first one there, and what? The last one there. And we were talking about that yesterday, and we get kids that can't get off for 1 hour. They ready to die. Dude, 1 hour? Only 1 hour? You can't focus 1 hour? Yeah. And you want to be the GOAT? If you're going to be the GOAT, you got to practice like the GOAT. If you're going to be good, you're going to practice good. If you're going to be okay, mediocre, you're going to practice okay, mediocre. If you're going to be the GOAT, you got to practice like the GOAT. It don't matter how hard the sport is, no matter how technical it is. If you love this sport, and getting back to what I'm saying, what you were saying, Coach, tennis was a hard sport for me. I'm not going to sit here and say it was easy because I was self-taught. I taught myself everything. We didn't have the money. We didn't have the capability of the YouTube, Facebook, or all the tutorials you have. You can go online and learn anything now. We had to learn the hard way. I used to get tennis magazines come in once a month. And I would read that tennis cover from front to back, take that tennis magazine out to the tennis court and study until I got that shot down. But if I had YouTube, your kid system, if I had YouTube, I'm looking at my. If I had YouTube, I would be a pro tennis player.
Oh, yeah.
Because the ability, the time that I spent on the court.
They call it YouTube University.
There you go. If I had that tool of YouTube, them shortcuts that you all have today, so young man, young lady, listen to me. Parents, you have the ability to learn what you want, but you got to stop making excuses. So get back to what I was saying. As a tennis player, it took a lot for me to get to where I'm at. But I see some young men and women that are great tennis players. I said, who taught you how to play tennis? Well, I learned from YouTube. Never took a lesson a day in their life. What was their excuse? None. They work hard. So if you are struggling in your sport, you gotta look in the mirror, see those 2 eyes looking at you. That's what's slowing you down. That's what's holding you back. Do you really want to be there? Do you really want to learn this sport? And like I said, technical sport like tennis, it's easy to want to give up because it's hard.
It's hard. It's hard.
But if you love it, if you want to be there, if you got your mind made and you're going to be great in something, you're going to push through it. The Kobe Bryants, the Michael Jordans, the Steph Curry, the Roger Federer, the Serena Williams, you're going to push through because you really want to be there. Whether your parents push you, whether the coach is pushing you, you're going to get up and do what you have to do, and that means putting that phone down sometimes. Social media, what you're talking about, social media is killing a lot of athletes today.
Yeah, they got to learn. It's you got to learn to put it down, and I think it's like you're saying, all that time that you spent through the sport, when you were young, teaching yourself, learning, reading magazines. And that's the reason why you can teach today, right? You can teach because of that, So, it's so important in terms of just even like you're saying, pushing through. It also connects to life. Even in life, you got to push through in terms of because we look at sports and just play a lot of times. And I think, I always say, man, the people who, of course, they're turning into from the higher level, from the youth, just playing, enjoying it. There's so many things you can get out of it from the high level now, professional, they're making money from it. Not just the ones who are playing. There's so much money being made outside of the advertisement from, everybody, whatever company you want to name.
Cashing in on your ability.
From those athletes, right, that they're making money from that. So in terms of just, you pushing through, it's just the same thing you got to do in life. If you got to go to work, you got to push through. You know, you got to go to school. You know, things that you're facing that's a challenge, that you're learning, dealing with your peers. All these things you got to push through. And these are some of the life things, you know, we learn in terms of sports. So I kind of did want to, you know, as I'm talking about that, what are some of the lessons, you know, I know it's a lot of them, you know, what are some lessons that you can share with us that you believe through you just playing sports? Because a lot of times, you know, that's why for me, like, you know, it's more about, you know, mentorship, even though we're playing sports. And I think Jordan, I studied a lot of Michael Jordan, you know, from basketball. Actually, my introduction to basketball was me playing, but when I got really good at it, a friend of mine, his parents got me a cassette tape, Michael Jordan's Playground. Yeah, Michael Jordan's Playground for you kids who are trying to learn. Michael Jordan's Playground, look that up, it's on YouTube. I actually learned how to play through that video. You know, one thing he said a lot, and it wasn't just the highlights, it was the stuff that he was talking about. One thing he always said was that for him, basketball was the teacher of life. So, like, what are some of the lessons that you've learned through tennis that you think, you know, that helped you to deal with life, that helped you maybe to understand life better, that you learned through sports?
And that's a perfect way to start off this. When I'm about to say now, and we talked about it yesterday, I had a gentleman that was teaching me as a kid how to play tennis. And like I said, I was self-taught, and he was just trying to give me a few pointers. It wasn't a lesson, it was just more like, oh, the gentleman out there saw me always practice. He said, well, hey, coach, let me give you, Sterling, let me give you a few pointers. So while teaching me how to play, he would get frustrated at me. And here's the difference. I wasn't that kid that was complaining. I wasn't that kid that wasn't trying. I was giving my all, trying my hardest. And this adult, he got frustrated at me and got mad and walked off the court. Said, "You're never going to be good, Sterling." And left me standing on the court.
Wow.
I said, I can't believe this guy was listening to me. I'm only a kid. Why would you tell me this? And I'm out here working. It wasn't like I wasn't trying. I would spend like all those hours from 7 in the morning to 2 o'clock in the morning on the court, working.
Now, why do you think he said that? Because maybe he couldn't.
I'm gonna tell you why.
And let me kind of jump in there where you get connected, because you know I always kind of question that, and I'll kind of say my question in it. It could be a couple of things. You think he was saying that? Well, one thing. You think he was saying that because he, you know. Well, I always look at some trainers or coaches who can teach talent, but you think he was saying that because he really couldn't teach in terms of where you was at, the level you was at, in terms of trying to help you learn the skills? You think that was something that was a part of it, and you can connect that with what you was going to say?
Well, I think what it was just that he was just an ordinary tennis player. He wasn't passionate for teaching the sport.
Right.
So it was just a gentleman's on the court that saw me playing and figured he wanted to help me. And it goes back to what we're talking about being as a coach. We have to be passionate about what we're doing. We have to love what we're doing, because if we don't love what we're doing, when that young student that gets frustrated, easy, ready to quit. Sometimes if I don't love what I'm doing, I say, go ahead, quit. Give me a break it out. But you're getting on my nerves. Go ahead. Right. And if I didn't love this sport, it'd be easy to want to give up those students, like that guy gave up on me. But because I love what I'm doing, and I see the potential in that young man, and I know what's going to happen when he gets good on the court, how he's going to transition into his life, what he's dealing with in life. When he comes to that court saying, I know Coach not going to let me bring this mess to the court. I got to get together if I get to court. It's going to bring that balance in life. So when I saw what that man did to me, it made me say, you know what? Since that man told me I'm never going to I'm going to prove him wrong. And I wasn't doing that just for him.
It gives you that fire.
I was going to do it anyhow because I love this sport. But it gave me extra push. That when I see him next time, I'm going to show you, buddy. So when he saw me a few months down the road, he said, hey, Sterling, let's play some tennis. We played tennis. I smoked him.
Yeah.
He said, hey, you want to play tennis more? No, sir. I mean, I'm being disrespectful, but I'm done with you. You said I'm never going to be good. So, hey, I'm going to find somebody that's going to be positive in my life. And I'm not saying anything mean or negative about that man. It's just that he wasn't a coach. He was just some guy out there that didn't have patience. But Coach K, as coaches, we know that we have to go through all kinds of difficult situations. We have to bite our tongue. We have to be able to be forgiven. We have to sometimes say, hey, listen, whether I'm wrong or right, I got to let them, be the bigger man and put up with stuff that the ordinary person wouldn't put up with, because we see that potential in a person, or a student or an athlete. And if we push them too hard or let our feelings get in our feelings, I say, as a coach, if I get in my feelings, I'm about to lose a kid. I'm about to lose a kid that I'm about to ready to grab hold to and maybe pull them to the side, that next level where we can get past the attitude and maybe get them become a good athlete and then pursue their life. And I'm going to give you a good example. One of my students, the kid I was telling you about, that we used to bump heads, he had anger issues. And I knew this, the mom, the grandmother told me about, I got a kid for you. Now his grades come up.
Right.
We used to bump heads like his grades come up.
Right.
His personality changed. He's one of my better players now. And we still bump heads. But at the same time, I'm seeing this young man's life transform, not only on the court, but off the court. He's getting awards in school. When he was failing in school, now all of a sudden, him getting his life together on a tennis court. And we have these conversations, son. It's not only about the tennis court. It's about life. If you can do it here on the court, you can do it off the court. And if you can do it off the court, you can do that on the court. So let's commingle these personalities and work on the court and off the court and bring them to make you a better human, a better person, a better athlete, a better, a stronger person in life in general, as we talk about, where when you come to the court, you're ready. When you get off the court, you're ready. And if you're not ready on the court, it affects you in your home life,
right,
your school life. If you come on the court and you had a bad day, it affects you on the court. So you can't wear you can't wear your emotions on your sleeve. And we talk about it a lot too with my students. Not when those emotions on your sleeve. You got to learn how to let some things go, let some things drop. So.
That's definitely a good point, because a lot of times, parents are quick to use that when a kid is maybe struggling in whatever activity, that automatically kind of say, you know what, the fact that they're not doing good in school, they're not doing really well, they're not going to continue to do the extracurricular activity, which I get it.
Right.
But a lot of times too, you can figure out how to use that as motivation as well. For example, you want, because if the kid wants to continue to do that, now it becomes, okay, the fact that you want to do that, you have to do all these different things on this list. Whatever we need, you can do your chores, make sure you do good in school so you can continue to do this. But if you didn't present that beforehand, it's kind of hard to just say, you know what, for the fact that you're doing bad, because it could be, you could use it as motivation as well. But some kids do actually focus because they're looking forward to going to practice, going to meet that coach they continue to learn. So
you don't want to take that away from that kid, because if you take that away from sometimes we as coaches may be that extra hope they need to get to that next level.
Yeah,
so,
and some kids, they just continue, going down that hole because there's no motivation. You actually took that one thing they're probably passionate about, actually that you could have used to actually motivate them to actually do get a lot of things done. So that definitely was that was very important in terms of just you being able to mention that, which leads us to the next question. The next question pretty much is I think we kind of hit it a little bit. Why would you say why do you coach? Like what's some of the reasons that you train? Do you teach and do you coach? What would you say is some of the reasons why kind of got you to go into coaching?
Well, first of all, I'm going to distill a myth, which I know both know what I'm talking about. It's not about the money. Because some coaches do go in for the money, but for me, I do a lot for my kids. I do a lot of extra hours for my kids. I spend extra time, and I'm one of the cheapest tennis instructors around, but I'm looking at the bigger picture. I'm looking at not only what I can do for a student on the court, or what I can do for them off the court. And then on top of that, first of all, the way I got into coaching is because I'm passionate about the sport. I love what I'm doing. And this one thing I tell myself, a lot of people know about. I missed 20 years of tennis. I gave up from 1989 to 2009. I was off the court. So when I came back in 2009 and started becoming a tennis instructor, that was because I gave up tennis. And a lot of people don't know this, so I'm about to share some.
What was going on at that time?
Well, I'm going to share some things with people that don't understand. And, I try not to push religion or Christianity on people because you got to be careful. And my students, a lot of students don't know I go to church. I let my light shine through. I let Jesus Christ shine through my life by who I am, not by my words, but by my actions. But when in Germany, 1989, like it came from Germany, my late wife to the United States, tennis was such a god for me. I was so caught up in tennis. And my car, I had a car. I was crazy about this car. God had to take those things away from me to get me right with him first. Because the way I was going, first of all, and this may help people understand, if I would have been going the way I was going back then, I wouldn't have been who I am today. I wouldn't have been a tennis instructor. I may have been a drug addict. I may have been an alcoholic, anything. So I had to get my life together, and this helped kids understand. We talk about as coaches, we go through things also. I used to party and drink, and I told my late wife before we first came to this, I said, the only way we're going to have a great marriage, we need to get in church. And that's what I felt. Now, I'm not trying to preach to people, but for me, myself, and I and my family, I knew a family that prays together, stay together. So I knew I needed to be in church. So we came to the United States, and that's funny how we came to the States. I came to the States following a dream. My car got stolen in the United States. So when I came to the States, I had to give up tennis in order to get myself together because I was so focused on tennis. Once I got myself together, 20 years later, God gave me the okay to get ready for tennis. But I know He was preparing for tennis also and for young folks because now I got involved with, I was, for the longest time, my late wife and I, we were the director of the Christian Education Department. So I wrote plays and skits. So I was already developing myself. God was using me, working with young kids already. I never thought I'd be a character and doing clowns and all kinds of crazy writing skits. But I was already working with the young folks in the capacity of the church, learning how to deal with attitudes, how to deal with parents, because I was in charge of the Christian Education Department. So when He allowed me to get back into tennis in 2009, I had a lot of training through the church. I had a lot of dealing with the young folks and knew about their attitudes and the personality because, see, it's a spiritual thing also. And so to talk about the spiritual side of it, there's good and evil. We know this. So me coming into as a coach in 2009 and working with young kids, knowing that their struggle is a lot of times demons in their lives, as in, whatever going on in their lives that causing them the good and the evil that they're fighting against, and so me as a coach in 2009 getting involved, I knew God was going to use me because I always ask God, how do you want to use me? And if you ask that question, you better be prepared because He's going to use you, baby. He's going to use you. And He's been using me ever since 1989. And it's like, wow, some days I'm like, wow, I stay busy. So I never expected to be a tennis instructor. When I got back in tennis in 2009, that's what about I wanted. I felt God can use me here because I love the sport. And I said, hey, if I become a tennis instructor, I can't go pro now. It's past that stage. So, we have YouTube until late in the game. But I knew that I could make a difference in some young folks' lives teaching the sport because I love the sport and know what I taught myself. So if I can teach myself and get to that level, what can I do by helping young folks with the shortcuts? And then all of a sudden, YouTube came in. Well, we had YouTube when I was growing up. So now I use stuff on YouTube also. You see what I'm saying? I go on YouTube and I try to tell my young folks, YouTube. A lot of stuff I teach my kids, you can find on YouTube. I said, you got stuff on YouTube. I'm trying to put some stuff on YouTube. But there is no excuse.
University, there's no excuse now.
There's no excuse why you can't learn. If you can't learn, if you're having a hard time in your sport for whatever reason, it's because you have to look in the mirror. Look in the mirror.
I think that comes down to who really want it.
There you go. How bad you want it.
Who really want it? Because you can find anything you want.
That's right.
But at the end of the day, we all got to put the work in. We got to put the time in. Us, having the chance to do this, we had to get here. And that was a little struggle, a little bit for me personally. But we had to get here. So. So it's who's willing to put that extra work in and put that extra time in, and it's just, and that's the effort, that's the energy. So no, I'm excited about what you said because, when I get excited, I gotta, my little theme music, I gotta get that going. I'm really fired up about what you said because it leads to our next question actually. Welcome to the podcast, Inspiring Through Sports Podcast. This is what we're doing the podcast, because the next question, I'm fired up about it because you actually I think you hit it without even probably thinking about what was coming next. That's why I kind of laugh about it because the next question, I think you touched on it, is you just talked about, why you coach is not about the money. But my next question is, so Coach, do you know your purpose? And there's two parts to the question. For example, do you know your purpose? And also, have you found your purpose? And I think, because there's a lot of people, I think, once I feel like right now, I think I'm in my purpose. It took me maybe about 3 years to really figure it out, that I'm in it. But I'm in it right now, and there's always going to be people that's going to question you to kind of like try to stare you in the way they think what you think you should do. Because what I'm doing right now is all division in terms of I feel it's coming from God in terms of, you need to do this, you need to do that. The impact I'm having with the kids, it's like nobody's really telling me what to do, and I'm kind of going through, the process. So kind of, if you could answer that question in terms of like, do you know your purpose, and so have you found your purpose?
Well, here's one thing also. When I first started getting involved with teaching, I've always had, as a kid, my mother told me as a boy, asked her, Mom, why'd your name be Strong? She said, because one day you're going to be rich. I am. So as a little boy, God had already started preparing me, and I didn't know this because I don't know the future where He knows the future. So I knew I had to always have a business mindset. So I started a business at 12 years old, cutting grass, and to try to fast forward this. So I had a business mindset. I had to stay in shape. I had to take care of myself. I had to live a certain way. So as a young man, I started giving my mother money at 12 years old, trying to do things like just stay in line or staying out of trouble. And so fast forward, when I started going to church and I started getting my life together, a scripture stood out to me, Proverbs 63, commit to the Lord whatever you do and your plans will succeed. So that's my favorite scripture. I have it on my cards, and I stand by that scripture.
Say that one more time. What does it say it again?
Proverbs 16:3, commit to the Lord whatever you do and your plans will succeed. And I don't try to preach that to my kids, and a lot of my kids don't know I use that scripture, but they can look at my life. And they can say, man, a lot of people, and they're not trying to brag or anything, a lot of people don't know I have a nice car.
Wow.
And so when people see me and say, Coach, I didn't know you had a car like that. I didn't know you drive around like that. I don't talk about my life that much because it's not about me. You see what I'm saying? When we talk about, a lot of times I talk to kids about being a coach. And I tell my kids, I haven't done anything special. I'm just a hard-working guy that love what I'm doing. I'm passionate about what I'm doing. I never played pro myself, but I've done my homework. I'm doing my studying. I go to YouTube, different things I do to help my kids get to the next level. I have kids in college. I have kids, some of the top level tennis players, but my passion is tennis. And I knew that once I got involved with this tennis, it wasn't going to just be about teaching kids how to play tennis. I knew that it's going to also transition into the lives of my young folks. On the ride home when I was coaching high school, one of the questions I asked my kids, what's your goals in life? What's your dream? Like, that's why that bus ride was so important for me. A lot of kids think, well, I don't ride the bus home. No, we ride that bus. I ask the kids, what are your dreams? What is your goals? I have a young man by the name of Tavish, and this young man, he's working to be a cardiologist. And some of the things we talked about, we are still in each other's lives. This was back in 2015 before I left, and he was about to graduate. But I still see this young man here. I have a lot of my students that I'm still involved with. I still see them. I try to keep up with them. Want to know what they're doing. And the reason why, because what we do as coaches, and Coach K can contest this also. I mean, he can agree with me on this. As coaches, we're not just trying to get these kids to be successful on the basketball, football. We want to make you productive to the citizens also. Right. Because if we're working with you, you become a great athlete, but you leave that court and you're getting in trouble. You can't keep your grades up. You become a menace to society.
You won't be back. You're not coming back.
You're not coming back. And on top of that, our hard work went down the drain. Right. Because our hard work to get you to a certain level, it means that you have to also have it together off the court. Because if you don't have it together off the court, that's why I tell some of the young kids, my young students, you got to watch the crowd you're hanging out with.
Right.
You got to be careful the people that are dream busters, like we talk about, they're trying to pull you down. Some people don't feel the way you feel. Right. Some adults don't feel the same way. You people are jealous of you, haters, as they say. Yeah. So as a coach, we are passionate about what we're doing. We love what we're doing. And it sounds like from listening to Coach K, we're not only doing this just to see our kids be successful on the court. Right. We want you to be productive, successful citizens, because you all are our future. Right. You're going to be the ones that are going to be taking over as we leave this earth. Take care of us eventually. Right. So as a tennis instructor, when I first got involved, there was a bigger picture than just me just teaching tennis. I love tennis. I'm passionate about this sport. But I also see the young man and young woman that's coming to that court that's dealing with all kinds of other issues, that the Lord would be able to use me to be able to help them, to be able to give them some encouragement, where they may not find it at home, where they may not find it in school, where they may not find it around their friends, that they can come to their coach and say, at least I know my coach cares about me. Mm-hmm. At least my coach, he's not going to always tell me what I want to hear, because we're not going to do that as a coach. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we got to tell you the truth. We got to be that sandpaper. I tell my kids, iron sharpen iron. So we have to be that iron. The Bible says iron sharpen iron. In order for you to be sharp, it takes sharp. It takes iron to sharpen iron. If I'm being soft on you, it's okay. No, son, I love you. You're my student. Listen, I got to be honest. Your parents got to be nice, got to be friendly and everything. But we have to sometimes tell you the truth and tell you things you don't want to hear. Not because we're trying to hurt you, but we're trying to make you become that athlete, that productive citizen off the court, that productive person that's going to grow up and be able to pass these things along to your kids and to the next generation. Or if you become that athlete or that coach yourself, you'll be able to say, wow, I learned a lot from my coach. I learned how to deal with people, not only on the court, but off the court, and how to make a difference in their life. Because that's what it's about. Like you said, inspiring lives.
Yeah,
inspiring lives. There you go.
I think you.
When you use the sports, we use inspiring lives through sports.
That's it. I mean, that's what's. I mean, that that's because it's sports teaches you about life. You know. I mean, sports is the thing that changed my life. It changed my life. English. I mean, English is a second language for me. So being from the Congo Republic, I couldn't even speak English. But when I went to go play sports, I was able to fit in as I took time to learn certain things. So that was an area I can always kind of, really fit in. So that really helped me to just, be able to, it just changed my life. And so that's why what I'm doing now, just trying to, provide the same outlet for a lot of the kids on top of us trying to teach them to go as far as they can go from, with the sport. But the goal is all the different life lessons they can learn from the sports, from the confidence, the work ethic, the discipline, the commitment, leadership skills that they're learning. So there's so many different things that they're learning. And I think, and a lot of this, like as you talked about God too, I think, this is, when we did our second episode, I think right now we're on episode, this must be almost like I lost my mind a little. I think we're in episode 7. I think this is episode 7 and episode 6. I have to go back and check. But episode 2, we talk more about just God. That God is the reason we was able to kind of do what we're doing. Because without having faith in God, I mean, I always say, the people that don't believe in God, I'm not sure how they get through certain challenges and what they deal with. I really don't. So I would like to ask you for you to talk about, because the next question was about just asking about, are you a believer? And I think you've hit that already in terms of being a believer. Are you a believer? And also just if we could talk about your faith and just maybe also, because there are people, like they always say, money is not the solution. But there's a lot of people that have a lot of money, they still struggle. They still have challenges. And I always personally, if I have to be biased, I always think a lot of those people, they don't have God in their life. They just don't. They don't have God in their life, and that because when you have God in your life, it challenges you. It teaches you to be humble. It teaches to for example, some of the things Bible principles like forgiving other people, treat others as you would treat yourself. All these different things that has nothing to do with you. You got to follow. All of us got to try to meet those standards. So are you a believer? And also, how has your faith, how has that helped you for you to continue to enjoy life?
I'm going to go back a little bit with some of the things you said. First of all, as coaches too, we're going to be realistic. Our goal is to help you reach your potential. We would love to see our athletes go pro. How often we see an athlete go pro? So far, I haven't got there. I have kids that are getting close to it. Division I, I have kids that major schools want them. I have kids that are playing college teams. But at the same time, we are realistic in saying this. If you don't make it to become a pro athlete, you are still a better citizen and you're able to make it in life. A lot of athletes, as we know today, get that money, become that big baller, as they say. Life is destroyed, lose everything, committing suicide. So it's not about the money all the time. Yes, the goal is, the end result is you want to go pro. But when you have a balanced life, as we talk about, when you have that balanced life and you realize that, okay, maybe I may not make it to pro, but I can use myself, and I want to go pro. I didn't make it to become a pro tennis player, but I look at all the lives that I have touched, all the children I've been able to be beneficial to because of what I'm doing tennis-wise and my life as a Christian, loving the Lord, being involved in things I do. So yes, being an athlete, our goal is, yes, we would love to see kids go pro.
Definitely.
But at the same time, if you go pro and you're not a productive citizen, and you are ready to commit suicide out here, ready to hurt yourself, or just harming people, don't care about life, I'm not that excited about it.
Yeah,
because I would rather you be a more productive person and live a normal lifestyle than become a top level athlete and
you'll lose all that anyway.
your life is you're gonna lose it all, and that's one of the things I talk about my kid. So to get to what you're saying, because being a believer, being a born again believer, having the Lord Jesus Christ living in my heart, that's what gives me the purpose in life to not make it about the money. Because I know He's got my back. I know He's taking care of me. I was almost homeless one time. That's another thing people don't know about me. I was almost homeless. My late wife and I, we went through some crazy stuff. So I know that anything's possible if you put your trust in Him. If you not rely on yourself, but put your rely on Him to lead you and guide you. And here's the thing we're talking as athletes also. If I didn't go through these struggles, if I didn't go through these hardships, even knowing I lost my wife, unfortunately, it was one of the hardest things in my life. But to be able to still sit here and to be able to do a podcast on the day, like I talked about, on the 5th and 6th are hard days for me. Every time the 5th and 6th roll around, I think about my wife. I think about, wow, hopefully that it's going to be going good for me, because the 5th and 6th always was awful. I don't care what's January the 5th, December the 5th, September the 5th, the 5th and the 6th of the month has always been bad. But because I have hope and I have my trust in Jesus and God, the Almighty God, He's got me through these things. So that's why I'm able to move forward. That's why I have hope and I have a goal to say, listen, if I can make it, you can make it also. But at the same time, I'm not just making it on my own. I got backup. Who's your backup? So, and I don't preach it to my kids, but when my kids look at my life and wonder what's different, but when I had some of my students come to my late wife's memorial service, and the people say, well, Sterling, I didn't know that you were so heavily involved with church. I didn't know you were involved with the Christian Education Department. I know you wrote skits and plays. People don't know I write skits. I was writing skits and plays and the different things I was doing. But God just took me to another transition. I may not be doing that in the church now, but now He's used me in this part of my life to prepare the children and the young people I work with. I don't preach to them. So parents, if you think I'm preaching to your kids, I'm not preaching to them. But I'm letting them see my life and see the type of person I am. They know something different about me. They don't hear me swearing. They don't hear me cursing. They don't see me acting like a fool. I live a very clean life. I told my kids, why do you don't see me out here? If you saw me out here drinking, partying, drunk, hanging all these loose, crazy women, first thing your parents say, oh, baby, we got to find another coach. Right. So first of all, God used my life as a testimony. So my kids see me and they know something different about me. And if they ask, I say, son, listen, I'm not going to try to preach at you, but Jesus, God, the Almighty is what keeps me going. That's how I get through my hard time. And I've had students that have gone through some tough times, man. I can't go into details, but I know I had one of my young men, he had gone through some rough times. And me being able to share with him, hang in there, it's going to be okay, man. It's going to be okay. He started going back to church. Yes. And not only that, but he's been able to get through a lot of his struggles now and realize that, hey, God never promised that we're not going to have storms in our life. Right. He'll help us get through
it. And that's why that question is there, because it's so important. You know, it's bigger than, just, us talking about sports. It's about life. It's about, how to be productive, how to help yourself, and so you can be able to help other people. And I think a lot of times when it comes to really helping other people, you got to help yourself first. You got to be in a position where you've helped yourself, because we deal with different things as well. But how are you helping yourself? How are you getting through it? So when people do come to you with questions, because as coaches, we are, mentors, counselors, they're asking for certain information. You can provide them the right information to be able to get through that. So you're definitely, you're definitely correct, in terms of what you're saying, Coach. That's why, because without God personally, for me, like I always tell people, we deal with challenges, but having faith in God has helped me to be strong, to deal with different challenges. It don't look like I'm going through anything, but I'm going through some stuff, but it's the fact that, God has that trust, in God, I'm good. So I think we knocked this one out the park, Coach. I think we hit everything. I do have a bonus. I got a bonus question, so I gotta bring my theme music.
Okay.
I think we're close to closing. We're about to close the podcast for today. I definitely want to thank Coach Metz for coming. This is not going to be the last time that you're going to see Coach Metz, but we did want him to come on for the first time. So like I said, more people is open. The doors is open for people to come to the podcast. You can send me a message on Inspire through Sports on Instagram. Also, we're currently growing the YouTube channel. Right now, I think the last time I looked, we're about close to 70 subscribers. So, look us up. Inspire through Sports on YouTube. Subscribe. The goal for me right now is to get to 100 subscribers. But like I say, that's just the next step. But the goal really is to get to 1,000. And after we get to 1,000, then we're going to be trying to move forward with that. So thanks a lot, Coach. But I do got a bonus question for you, and you got to answer this last question.
Oh, wow.
This is the fun one. You can't be political.
Okay.
No political responses on this one. Okay. You gotta give us, a name. In terms of, this is there's a couple questions. We're gonna close out to these questions right here, but. In terms of tennis, because this is a conversation that's already going on right now that's really hot. In terms of tennis, who is the GOAT? Who is the greatest tennis player? It could be a woman or man. Who is, you got to give us a name. You can't say, is it multiple people? Okay, great. So who's the GOAT? Who's the greatest tennis player of all time?
Okay, for me, I'm going to be a little more update with it now. I'm going to go with Roger Federer. And the reason why I go with Roger Federer because, first of all, not only is he's done it on the court, but he's doing it off the court also. And I know people go with Serena Williams also. Wow. Serena Williams, she's doing it on the court, off the court. But when I look at this style of playing, I used to joke around and say, Roger Federer owes me money. Because he stole my style of playing. I'm going to say this, listen to everybody. I'm trying to get in trouble. But I was stationed in Europe years ago. And my style of playing, where I'm a attack player, if you joke around barking like a dog, I would tell my kids, they think I'm crazy because I get to growling and come foaming at the mouth. Roger Federer is an attack player. He comes in and do stuff that a lot of people don't want to do. I was in Germany, Europe, when he was a young man, about 15, and I was playing that way. People come watch me play because they never seen that style of playing. So I said, Roger Federer, he saw me playing, and he stole my game from me. He saw some video footage. Somebody said, hey, I saw this young man in Germany playing tennis, and this style of playing, because he's killing people out here. Maybe you need to pick up that style of playing. So advance forward to when he started playing pro, all of a sudden, a lot of his shots and stuff that I teach my kids, he's doing the exact same thing. So I said, Roger Federer owes me money. Yeah. He's plagiarized my game. So, but I'm sorry, Roger Federer. But to make a long story short, that's why I say he's to go because he's a mentor also. When you watch him, he's a very cool guy. He's very laid back. You don't see him getting mad and frustrated. He's easy to deal with on the court. And I'm not saying Serena Williams is not also, but me being a man tennis player and what I know what to do and how I know how to play, I know different styles of playing. I watched him play and I said, man, I love his style of playing. So that's why to me he's the GOAT. And of course he was the GOAT for the longest time. Right. But he's retired now. A lot of newer players coming along trying to, of course, beat his record because the record's going to come and go. You know, so. But he's the GOAT to me, and I'm always stick with Roger Federer.
That's a great response. It's not an easy one. That's why I kind of say you have to give us an answer because there's a lot of people that are going to find a reason not to pick one. So now that's a good one. The follow-up will be in terms of that. You're right. There are definitely women in the conversation as well. But I think right now we're talking about the men's game. You'll hear, Roger's name will come up, Nadal name will come up, or Djokovic. Now, if Roger's the GOAT, that means he's first. So how would you put the other two, which is Djokovic and Nadal? So the next question of it is pretty much, that means Roger's number one. So who would you put second? Who would you put third? And you got to give us an answer for that too. That's why I said it's an easy question because some people will go, in different order as well, right? Mm-hmm. So, who will be second and kind of give us the reason because, they're all pretty good. Now that we know who's the GOAT in terms of what you're saying, and I've been studying tennis for a minute now, kind of understanding how tennis works. They're all so good at different surfaces. So in terms of who's second, who's third, can you kind of give us some reasons why? Because I know they all have kind of different style of play. So you can focus on the next two and kind of tell us, who's that second player and who will fall third.
Okay, well, I'm going to go with Djokovic. The reason I'm going to go with Djokovic because, first of all, and not trying to get into politics, but we all know what happened to him just recently with the vaccine and everything. He had to make a major decision. And young folks, listen up. Coach K, now can you talk about this? you're going to have to make decisions about your life based on where you're going, where you're not going. And some decisions, you got to say, what is more important, my integrity, my the money, or my what I'm going to look like in the future? And some athletes, unfortunately, make the wrong decision for their lives. They go with the money, they go with the girl, they go with the party, and they being a big baller. And you get the athletes to say, no, I want to remain that role model. So some things I can and cannot do. And I have to say, with everything that Djokovic has gone through, with him not being vaccinated, they pulled him back. He's been dogged a lot because of that, because he chose not to get vaccinated. And I'm not against or for vaccination. That's a person's business.
Yeah.
But he had to make a major decision for his life. And as a young athlete, you're going to come to situations in your life where you have to decide what I'm going to do based on what works best for me. And sometimes it may be a religious thing, or it may be a integrity thing, where saying, well, I'm not going to sell my soul, I'm not going to sell my integrity, I'm going to be honest, whether it caused me to lose this or lose that. And Djokovic made that decision. He knew that when he decided not to get the vaccine, he couldn't play in a lot of the major tournaments. And now they're still kind of giving him a hard time about it. So when I look at his mentality, how he said, you know what? My health is more important. My life is more important, what I feel for my life. And a lot of young athletes are going to have to make that decision, and I already had that to make decision when it comes to hanging with those wrong friends, being in the wrong crowd, saying, well, you know what, I know I want to hang out and drink and party and do this, but I got to get up early like Kobe Bryant. I got to be there early before the first one there, the last one there. If I'm not in the right shape, I can't do it. So I have to applaud Djokovic by not being peer pressured into doing what society wanted him to do. He stood up for what he thought was right for him. And then I go with Nadal also, because these are the top three tennis players been around for a while. And one thing I will say, unfortunately, I think Roger Federer was helping him a lot too. He really got his English on. I listen at you. You were an American. Your English is just as good as mine. You understand? So you came here and did what you had to do to further yourself, to be a better person, and not just better, I mean, to be able to be in America, to be able to be to contribute and to do what you had to do. And unfortunately, Nadal, he struggled with his language a little bit. And so that's why I've heard people say they think he would have probably been a little bit better if he had really focused on his language. Not saying take away from his English, because unfortunately, everything is in English now. A lot of people want to hear English, and unfortunately,
America's running the world.
Right,
That's what it is.
and so that's why Americans expect you to speak English. So if you have both of them down to a point where you feel comfortable and you can get in front of a group of people and speak, it makes it. And a good example, just like now, this is first time I've been live on shows before, so I'm not quite as nervous, and Dad wasn't nervous. But here's the thing we talk about. Especially as a believer, God says that when it's time for you to speak, He'll give you words to say. When you want to share your testimony, because one time I was keeping a journal of what to say, how to say things, or just different things happening. God said, son, listen, you can't keep up my blessings. They're going to overtake you. Stop wasting your time. So I had to put the journal down. So He said, I will give you what to say when the time is right. And I didn't know all this stuff was off the cuff. I didn't know Coach was giving me. So I mean, he could have had me tongue-tied, tongue-twisted. But it's just perfect the way things worked out in the questions, because we're both brothers in the Lord, so this is flowing in the Spirit. So I have to say, with the picks, I'm going with Roger Federer. I don't know what his beliefs are, but I know he seemed like a pretty good mentor. He seemed like he got his act together.
Well, he took it to the next level, like you're saying, the language. Because I studied it. I think Pete Sampras was one they were looking at before, but he wasn't so good with media. Roger Federer was great with the media. He answered any questions.
He did what he had to do to be prepared for that next level. And sometimes the athlete, you have to just, being a great athlete don't mean anything always. Yes, it does when it comes to winning that sport. But if you're trying to take it to the next level off the court, and unfortunately, that's why I say kids going to college. If you're trying to be a college pro athlete, still get that degree, get that education. Because if you get hurt, what happens? You have something to fall back on. So Roger Federer was already looking at that. He's got his English down, got his act together. Not saying Nadal didn't. Djokovic, he's pretty good at English also, and he's putting himself out there. But Nadal seems like he's more to himself. And unfortunately, it's because I think he has the OCDs. Now, I'm not, unfortunately, trying to, say anything negative about it, but a lot of people believe he has OCD because of the way he does everything. And unfortunately, that can hurt you also.
Right.
So even though he is one of the greatest of all time, but when it comes to on the court and off the court, when you start looking at the top players on the court but off the court and how they're being a role model, I have to go with Roger Federer because, I mean, that man's a billionaire. It's not about the money, but it's about that people look to him. The Bible says also, when you have a skill and a talent, he'll put you before kings and queens.
Right, definitely.
That man goes before princes.
That's what he's going on right now in Wimbledon, right?
Right. They have people from other countries calling him to come perform and ask him, can they play tennis?
In Wimbledon right now, that's where he's sitting next. He's sitting next to the Queen. Last time I saw the video. So now you definitely. I think but definitely, that definitely. That wraps it up. I think that's and that's a good response because with those three, I mean, you could go any kind of way, but I think that's a great response in terms of tennis. I'm excited. I was excited to hear about it because I'm studying tennis. I'm learning it. So this actually was episode number 7. I was trying to get that in my head. Episode number 7. So
and that's my number in God's number. That's my favorite number 7. God's number 2 7. Wow. I know you didn't think about that, right?
Man, that.
You didn't think about that.
Yeah, but that's why all of this is spiritual. It's spiritual. It's not by accident. It's all by God's design. That's what.
On the 7th month, July the 5th, on the day that I'm talking about, it's not by accident, man. God brought this together for a reason. So, not trying to preach.
No, it's real.
God's
it's all about God is first. God is first. And that's one thing we want the kids to understand. You gotta put God first. I mean, we have that, in terms of how I raise. God is first, family, then, the other things that you care about, those things is very important in terms of you keeping a good mindset about how to take care of yourself. And that's what we want the kids to be able to do, to take care of themselves, to enjoy life. But that wraps it up. We out of here. We're gone. Thank you for tuning in to Inspiring ILTSports podcast. I thank Coach Metz for coming in and just giving us a lot of wisdom, a lot of great information. And I'm looking forward to having Coach Metz back so we can get more knowledge from him. Other than that, this is Coach K, Ethan Kapombe, Jay the Speaker. I'm out. We're going to see you up on the next one. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.